The world has gone from God Save the Queen to God Save the King. And the king, thankfully, is saying, God save the ducks and geese from the cruelty of foie gras. PETA also wants him to sing, God Save the Bears. Those King's Guards, that's one bear for one hat. An update from PETA UK on the fate of bearskin hats and foie gras. Next on the PETA Podcast. Welcome to the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo, your host for this inside look at animal rights. Brought to you by PETA, the largest animal rights organization in the world. On today's episode, two signs of animal cruelty still exist, especially in the UK. We're talking foie gras, the liver delicacy from force-fed ducks and geese. And then there's the bearskin caps. You saw them on the palace guards during the Queen's funeral. As PETA UK's Kate Werner explained to me, the new King of England has changed things a bit when foie gras was no longer allowed on royal grounds. That's good. But the bearskin caps remain on the guards, and that may take the new Prime Minister or the Ministry of Defense to get rid of them and adopt PETA's new answer, a synthetic faux fur hat that the government at first said they would adopt, but now seem reluctant to do so. So those are our topics, ending the bearskin caps and stopping the cruelty of foie gras. Here's my conversation with PETA UK campaigner and activist Kate Werner on the PETA Podcast.
I mean, in the UK, almost everyone doesn't eat foie gras. Pretty much nobody. Under 10% of people consume it, and 79% of people support a ban on importing foie gras, which is what PETA's been, calling for many years. Stores all over the UK don't sell foie gras. So Fortnum and Mason recently said that they were going to drop it after a sustained campaign by PETA. And yeah, like I say, very few people actually consume it. Maybe some around Christmas time, but only the tiny minority. And it's, obviously wealthy people who consume it. And this is why, so we recently almost got a ban on importing it to the UK recently.
But tell me, why is it that the wealthy would embrace foie gras and be oblivious to what the public sentiment, which is very much anti-foie gras?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's seen as like a luxury product. It's something that they might eat, like I say, at Christmas or like special events, or it's seen as this kind of really special kind of luxury thing that you might have at a special event. So I guess that's where it's consumed. I mean, obviously normal people, regular people don't eat it, and the vast majority of the public.
But when you say the rich, now are we talking about the office manager who has a little more money than the the worker, or are we talking about the friends of major soccer stars, football stars?
No, we're talking about aristocracy and really rich, like high society, I guess you'd say, in the UK. So for instance, the minister that blocked this coming through to fruition is super, super old money. He's from aristocracy. And he, wants foie gras to be eaten in the UK. He wants to be able to buy it and consume it. And that's the kind of person who, he's related to aristocracy and has grown up super rich. So that's the sort of people, the demographic, I think.
So now you when you say aristocracy, you mean royalty?
Not royalty, actually, as we've seen recently. The King Charles has banned foie gras from the royal residences. But when I say aristocracy, I mean people who have grown up rich are now, old money, I guess is what you'd call it, like people who have just grown up with wealth.
When you grow up with wealth in Britain, I mean, it's one thing in the U.S. to talk about old money, usually industrialists, those kind of people. But in the UK, isn't it the beneficiaries and the perpetrators of a kind of imperial Britain?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I know how else to describe it. Like they've just always had money and their families are very wealthy and have been born into money. And yeah, I guess that's who I imagine eat foie gras. But like I say, it's less than 10% of the population. So it's got to be that tiny minority.
But this has to be kind of like the British Empire, right? The perpetrators of the British Empire for centuries, right? That's how old money expands. Well, okay, so we know who's eating it, but we haven't yet gotten to the idea of why foie gras is bad. We get the sense that everyone knows it's bad except the rich. But why?
Well, I think they know, but they just don't care, right? Like, like people who wear fur, they know an animal's suffered for that, but they don't care. They just want to look a certain way. And I guess eating foie gras makes you look a certain way in your social circle, and it indicates wealth. And, it's that kind of like stature over caring, being compassionate for the animals who the fur belongs to or the foie gras belong to.
So now we've talked about, again, the attractiveness by some people of foie gras, but why is foie gras such a bad, ugly, cruel thing?
So foie gras, I guess, is comparable with fur in that it's like such a inherently cruel product. These ducks and geese, they're force-fed with really like tons and tons of grain, fatty grain. Foie gras literally means fatty liver. So it makes their livers swell to like 10 times their natural size. And this causes all sorts of, illness and disease. They can't breathe because all of their organs are all swollen. They're kept in like sheds, sometimes in cages, individual cages where they can't spread their wings or move around. Other times in like groups in sort of corrals, so they're confined for their lives, and they're force fed daily until they have broken beaks. They have holes in their necks sometimes, and then when their livers are swollen to that size, they're killed, and their liver is consumed as foie gras, and it's kind of like a pate, I guess. But yeah, it's just obscenely cruel.
Yeah, a pate or a liver spread. It doesn't look as cruel when you're just spreading it on a cracker, but before it gets to the cracker, what has to happen to ducks and geese to get that consistency, the spread, is a duck or a goose is force fed. Now describe the force feeding again. They're really literally, food is just shoved down these animals. They're bloated like a balloon.
And I've been to foie gras farms in France where it's traditionally, made, and they invite you into the farm. They're like happy to show you the process, and they use literally like a massive metal tube that they stick into. They grab the animal and then they just force the tube down their throats. You can imagine, and like you see the eyes widen on the goose or the duck, and then like tons of grain is just pumped into their stomachs effectively, and they're just swelling up.
So it's not a matter of, hey, hungry ducks and geese are just eating this up and becoming obese, or like they're starved so that they want to eat and they overeat. It's not like the duck or the goose is eating on its own volition. They're actually forced fed.
Yeah, it's pumped. It's 2 kilos of grain that's pumped into the birds' stomachs every day through these tubes. So, can you imagine how uncomfortable that would be for you or I to be force fed like that? It would. You'd feel like you were dying, and that must be how they feel.
Do they restrain the ducks and geese while this is?
Yeah, done? They hold their necks, and like a person will hold them between sort of their knees and hold their necks, and then shove the tube down them. And these geese and ducks are really like naturally sort of sensitive and wouldn't go near humans out of choice. So when you see them like before and after they're force fed, they're really scared. They like huddle together and try to get away from people. So the whole thing, like their lives are just torture.
The ducks and the geese don't want anything to do with it, do they fight back?
They have no way to fight back. I mean, their wings are broken often. Their beaks, like you can see pictures from farms where their beaks are like hanging off. So they've got no way of defending themselves. They're restrained.
Are they anesthetized at all?
No. That would be that would be too much work, right? They're just, I mean, the point of it is just to get them as fat as possible, as quickly as, well, their livers as fat as possible, as quickly as possible, and then kill them, slit their throats and get the liver out.
And this is a thing in France. I mean, foie gras is French, the phrase, and this is, if you think it's a thing in England, then it's more of a thing in France because they not only make it, they consume it. This is the source. Why have the French been able to resist the calls that say foie gras is cruel, foie gras should be avoided?
The French believe that this is a traditional French, gastronomic product that they kind of protect in like cultural heritage. They really hang on to it as like something that is part of their culture. They export, tons and tons of it every year. So it makes them money as well. And in the UK, we actually import foie gras, even though you couldn't make it here because we have a law against force feeding. But we import around 200 tons a year, which is completely hypocritical.
200 tons a year in the UK alone.
Yeah.
And even though you can't do it, you can't make it in the UK. So it says, okay, well, we're good on that. We're moral in that sense.
Yeah.
But it comes in and people are buying it and consuming it.
And so before Brexit, before we left the EU, the government was saying, there'll be the opportunity to ban products like this that are illegal to produce here and that the public see as really cruel and reject them. Because when we were part of the EU, we were part of the single market, so free trade. So we couldn't ban anything, any products really. But now we could, and the government have obviously gone back on that and are still dragging their heels with a ban on foie gras and fur.
Yeah, and so in France, they think it's a cultural thing. They eat it, they consume it, or they export it to places like England. Here in the U.S., we're sensitive. They were making it here. We banned it in where I am in California, but what is PETA doing to try to get the French to see things in a more compassionate way?
Yeah, I mean, PETA France works on this issue too. We have demos. We have, we give interviews there in France. We expose the industry. We've exposed it several times. And those images go all over the world. So PETA France are doing great work to show everybody the industry. And the same in the UK. It's not hidden, Like I say, you can go to France and you could go on a tour of one of these farms. Kids are on these tours when I was there, so they're not shy. They're happy for people to see what's going on. We're working to show the world,
and they're proud of their heritage because it's part of their, as you put it, the gastronomical heritage of France. Yeah. Has the foie gras industry taken a hit over the last couple of years at all?
I think it has taken a hit with the pandemic. That had an impact on farming all over the place. There was talk of the industry suffering, but it exists to this day, so it's hanging on. And I think the government will, subsidize the industry if needs be because of its kind of standing in French culture.
Is France the key place? I mean, it's not happening in other places in Italy or Germany or other.
I think it's made in. I mean, France is the kind of place for it, but it's also made, I think, in China, in America. I think has.
Oh yeah, America.
There, yeah.
Parts of America, yeah. Except in California, where I mean, there are parts of my state, San Francisco. I know they've got a ban on foie gras, but people who want foie gras can get it. That's the thing. So, so let's shift over to the significance of King Charles banning it. That's a statement. Is this a sea change in the battle against foie gras when the King of England says we're banning it?
Well, I mean, so when he was the Prince of Wales, before he was king, he did remove foie gras from his royal residences. And then when he became king, this is what we've now confirmed, that this policy has been extended to Buckingham Palace and to all the royal residences. So that's, that is it's really kind of reflective, like I say, of British, the British public's feeling on this product. And I think it really gives a message to not just to the public, but to the government and to everybody that says, as the monarchy even rejects this cruelty. So it is inherently un-British to be selling and importing this product.
Lately in the news, there's been some talk about some racist attitudes in the royal quarters concerning workers. The royalty is a moral compass. Mm-hmm. How significant is it when you see things like that, and then you see things like foie gras? Can people be selective about where the royalties stand, or does it really have an impact in saying, okay, well, this must be bad. The royals condemn it.
Well, I guess Charles has always had like a strong kind of attitude towards, sustainability and the environment and animal welfare to a certain extent. And I guess he's, as king now, he has to encourage the monarchy to evolve and to really be a 21st century monarch. Things are not the same here as they used to be years ago, when his mother took the throne and was queen. And I think he has in his mind that he wants to be kind of a modern monarch. And this is a way to do that and a way to show that he is. And you're right. I mean, there's lots of other ways that the monarchy is terrible for animals. They hunt, they shoot, but you got to kind of applaud progress when you see it. And I mean, this is great for animals, and hopefully it will, it caused a lot of media coverage here, and many more people, if they weren't aware of what foie gras is, will be now, and hopefully took action off the back of realizing.
Yeah, and this is really giving your campaign a boost.
Yeah.
What has it been like since the media coverage of King Charles banning it? I understand you also give vegan foie gras kits. What is the significance of all, the cause and effect? King says no, and boom, people's compassion rises.
Maybe their compassion doesn't rise immediately, but like I say, like to see that in the press and to learn about foie gras and to be directed to PETA's website to take action, and then to see all these other horrible things that happen to animals, like I think most people would agree foie gras is terrible and nobody wants to eat it. And then you come and visit the site and you're like, oh, and look what happens to chickens, and look what happens to cows, and look what happens to pigs and all these other animals that suffer. And then, they might be inspired to take more action for animals and to go vegan maybe, or to try vegan. So yeah, I mean, it's a great it's real progress, literally, but also it brings people into the issues and educates them further.
Well, tell me about the vegan foie gras kit.
Oh yeah, so we
are you getting a lot of traction on that? People want, vegan foie gras, I can have my foie gras and be moral at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a couple of versions of foie gras, as we call it, but there's one that was made by Alexis Gauthier, who's a Michelin star chef who's got a vegan, almost a fully vegan restaurant here in London, and he makes a foie gras that we sent to the king. But there's other artisan foie gras as well. I mean, I've never actually tasted foie gras, so I don't know what. I haven't got anything to compare it to. But yeah, I mean, they're great. The foie gras are really tasty.
Foie gras, that's like a built-in kind of name already. Foie gras.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It works, right?
Yeah. And so, all right, well, let's see how that works. And if you get more, and you got a kit that you send out, is that it?
Yeah, we've got a vegan starter kit. So it doesn't, at the moment, it doesn't tell you how to make foie gras, but it does tell you how to like tips and recipes and advice on how to try vegan and stay vegan, and helps you kind of on your journey.
Yeah, and like you don't have to have bangers and mash. You can have vegan bangers and mash.
Yeah, these days you can have anything vegan. I mean, it's crazy. When I first, like years and years ago, there was none of this. Like, you couldn't go to a restaurant and just get a vegan menu, but now you can go to any restaurant on the high street and
pubs, pub fare, vegan.
Yeah, pubs, fish and chips. All the kind of British favorites you can veganize now. You can go out and eat,
They'll sell you a faux fish and chips
in like a fish and chip bar, like a fish and chip shop, which is like on every high street in the UK.
Okay, but
which was always just like deep fried cod or plaice or whatever, and chips, deep fried chips, and now you can go in there and you can get like a vegan, like a banana blossom fish or a tofu fish or whatever. Like it's cool. It's great.
So the fish is fake, but the newspaper they put it in is real.
That's real.
Okay. All right. Let's move into another area that concerns us here on the PETA podcast. And we've talked about this before, but in America, when we only pay attention to the UK when someone dies or someone loses an office or something like that.
Say that.
Well, no, we pay attention to the UK more than that. Like someone has a hit song, but all right. So bear hats, we noticed the bear hats during the Queen's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
And I pointed out to my friends that you look at those bear hats, those are bears, real bear skin. And that should be banned. So
could they believe that they were real bears? I think most people think that they're not.
They look like Tina Turner's hairstyle, but they're real.
Not as nice.
Not as nice. I mean, that Tina Turner's real, but the bearskin hats are real too, and they shouldn't be real. They should be synthetic, right?
I mean, they could easily be synthetic. So PETA has been like working with a faux furrier, a luxury faux furrier for years to develop something that is almost identical in the way it looks and in the way it performs. It outperforms bear fur in some ways. So the MOD has these 5 criteria that it's set for a faux bear fur to switch to one. And this faux fur, it meets all the criteria, and like I say, outperforms the bear fur. So there really is no excuse to keep funding the slaughter of bears for these hats. It's outrageous.
And they slaughter the bear. I mean, they don't just like, bears don't shed skin. They have to kill the bear.
Yeah, so it's in Canada. This is where the fur comes from. So they so hunters can buy hunting tags to kill a bear. It's basically trophy hunting. So anybody can go and buy a hunting tag, and then you can go out into Canada and you can find a black bear and you can shoot them, or you can use a bow and arrow. You don't have to be like a trained marksman or whatever. Like anybody can go out and just get a gun and shoot them. So these bears end up bleeding for days if they escape. They might die from blood loss or starvation. They may be mothers because it's difficult to work out if it's a male or female bear. So in the spring hunts, mothers are killed and then their cubs are left behind. They just starve or get killed by predators. It's brutal. And then the fur is sold by the hunters to, auction houses or whatever. And then they're purchased by the cap makers, and the MOD buys X number of caps every year from the cap makers.
Wow. So the bears, it's open season on the bears. You buy a tag. Yeah. It allows you to shoot them. Mm-hmm. Then you sell. I guess most people just want the bear meat, or they want the bear. I
think most people are just doing it for fun, and then they go and sell the fur or the different parts of the bear for money, and then they keep like their paws or their heads or whatever, and then ship them back home, I guess. Yeah. So it's trophy hunting, and interestingly, the UK government is actually, at the moment, currently, a bill is going through Parliament to ban the import of hunting trophies. So you'll no longer be able to go out to Africa or wherever and bring back a antelope's head or a lion's paw or whatever it might be. But the MOD will still be able to import these bear hides, these bear pelts, and make these hats with them, which obviously is completely goes against the very legislation they're currently enacting.
Well, so more hypocrisy, but they need the bear skins for the bear caps and for the Queen's guards. I mean, it's like
the King's guards.
Oh, excuse me, the King's guards now. But it's part of the official. This is the look, right? Is it tradition that says they have to have the bear skin?
The tradition doesn't say it has to be bear skin, and actually, if you look, like we have, we've found this information in whichever guidance and old books there are, and it says in them, there isn't actually a definition of what a bearskin cap should look like. So there is no requirement for it to be bear fur. And when you consider that there's a viable faux fur available, they wouldn't have to change any legislation. They wouldn't have to do anything. They could just make this switch and nobody would even realize. So the actual visual is what people identify with the UK, right? So the look of the cap and the guards wearing it, but that would look exactly the same. No one would even be able to tell. So
it's a kind of historical vanity, or is it?
Well, it's like a military, so Ben Wallace, who's the guy that is the head of the Ministry of Defence here. He's been in the military and he believes it's like a glorious military tradition to make these caps from bearskin. But I mean, this faux fur, it could maintain the tradition and the iconic look, but just reflect 21st century values, there is no reason not to do it.
When you say faux fur, would it be a polyester?
So the company Ecopel that we've worked with, they've produced faux fur for Stella McCartney, and she uses what's called Cobra, which is a fully biodegradable luxury faux fur, and the caps could be made from that. At the moment, the one we have is made from acrylic. We have like a prototype, but it's more sustainable than bear fur because it doesn't need to be treated. So all the bearskin caps are treated with like a black dye that's obviously not great for the soldiers to have rubbing against their skin. It's also treated with different kind of chemicals to stop it from degrading and just falling apart over time. But there's none of that needed for the faux fur. And the fur's created in a closed loop factory, which means that there's very little waste. So it's definitely more sustainable. And obviously bears aren't being murdered for them.
Yeah. How many bears does it take to make a current bearskin cap?
So they use at least one bear per cap, and so in 2020, they ordered 110 caps. And they only use like a very small section behind the neck because that's the right texture and color and length of fur. So the rest is just discarded. It's not even like something that, as I say, the public, they don't support using the bear fur. We did like a poll a few months ago, and 75% of people wanted the Prime Minister to take action to change this. And 95% of the public reject fur, so they wouldn't wear it, which is a massive amount of people. And I guess when people find out that these hats are made of fur, they're outraged. They can't believe it. They just assumed it was faux fur.
So King Charles, good on foie gras,
yeah.
Bad so far on fur caps, the bear fur caps.
So as king, I mean, we've appealed to him to reach out to the Prime Minister on this. And we have also written to him about making his robes for his coronation from faux fur as well. So he's looking to make his coronation more sustainable, just a modern kind of coronation. And so, we're hoping that he'll make his robes from faux fur. And then hopefully if he does that, then the next step is to, then make the caps from faux fur too. But it's not his decision. It's the Prime Minister has to take action, really.
So the palace's resistance is they're hiding behind the Prime Minister's insistence that.
I guess it's Ben Wallace. So Ben Wallace, we know he is in charge of this, is his department. We know that he really wants it to stay bear fur. And I guess he is resistant to change, and he's able to block this.
Is there an advantage to bear fur aside from tradition? Like, does it smell more royal? Does it make the guards more virile and make them?
There is literally no excuse to keep making these caps from bearskin. Like I say, everyone is against it. It's totally, it just does not reflect public views. There's no traditional, there's no traditional excuse. There's no excuse for cruelty, for one. But also, like I say, we can make these caps from faux fur. They will look identical. They will perform in an identical way. And there's no reason not to do it.
Or maybe you can just give them different caps. Like, what if they wore like helmets, like like plastic helmets that would really protect them from either, some kind of.
Well, that's the thing. They're not going into battle in these caps, right? They're just parading up and down like it's a costume. Right. And they have already changed other kind of similar caps and other garments into faux, non-animal textiles. So there is a precedent set for this. And also the EcoPal are offering the faux fur for free until 2030. So it wouldn't cost them. I mean, obviously there would still be a cost with the labor to make the caps, but it would work out cheaper because the fabric would be free.
Can't imagine that just just over 100 caps that they buy per year would be so costly.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're like at the moment they're £1,710 each. So I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's a bit more.
3 times, like maybe $3,000 or $3,000 to $4,000, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what the exchange rate is right now, but yeah, it's expensive, and the taxpayer pays for that, And at the moment, we're in a cost of living crisis, and yet the government is spending £1 million in 7 years on these caps.
Yeah, it's more symbolic than anything else, right?
Yeah,
it's a symbol.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a moral issue. There isn't a reason to do it, and it's the public, as I say, are animal lovers here in the UK, and it's out of step with the public and with public opinions, and obviously nobody wants bears to die for a costume.
I guess the most evil people in the UK right now would be people wearing bearskin caps, eating publicly foie gras.
Yeah. Foie gras. Yeah, I mean, the people wearing the caps, they're not evil. They're just, doing what they're told, I guess. But like, I'm sure that if you ask them, the guards would not care either. Like the government always says, oh, the guards love brushing their caps, which is just total nonsense. I mean, it's just any excuse to not change.
Maybe that's what you need. You need to have the guards revolt.
Yeah, but they're terrified. They won't speak to us because they can't do that.
The guards won't speak to you? They don't speak, period, right? The guards are.
Well, they don't speak, period, but they're reluctant to speak out, because they're part of the system, and I guess they could be reprimanded for doing so.
Yeah. I guess you wouldn't want goose caps or duck caps or anything like that. That would not be good.
No, we just like to use the faux. I mean, any faux fur. We don't care which faux fur they use, but like we have one that they could use that is viable and would look great. So yeah, we're hoping now that. Well, we just filed a lawsuit against Ben Wallace and the MOD, and we want a judicial review to try and prove that they've behaved unlawfully. So that's where we're at with it.
So the lawsuit, it has some possible, it could have some impact.
Yeah. So I mean, it's gone to a judge now, and the judge will look at the case and see whether there's grounds for a judicial review. And I mean, I don't think the judge can sort of tell the MOD to go for free, but he or she could say that there's that they should re-examine the decision that they made. So it's based on the fact that so we've put the faux fur through several different rounds of testing in a lab. We used the MOD's accredited laboratory, and then we used a fabric technologist with like 25 years of experience. She did it in her lab too. She tested it. And this is how we know that it meets the 5 criteria. But when we sent the report to the MOD, they didn't even read it. They wouldn't even read it.
What was the 5 criteria again?
So it's water penetration, water absorption, compression, drying rate, and appearance. So basically, is it waterproof? does the water come off of it easily? Like if you shook your head and you were wearing it, would the water come off easily? Does it look like a real bearskin? And then compression and drying rate is explanatory, self-explanatory, but compression, I mean, I don't even really know why they test for this, but it's essentially how easily the fabric will bounce back when it's compressed.
So it's all vanity. It's not, are these caps bulletproof? This will protect our guards? Can they use it as a battering ram against oncoming assailants or something?
Yeah, there's no military, purpose for them. Like I say, it's just an ornamental cap. But the other advantage of the faux caps is that they'd be lighter. So I don't know if you've ever seen in the summer when they're forced to go out in the caps and the outfits, sometimes they all faint, on the parade ground because they're so hot. So they're lighter. So hopefully it would, prevent that from happening. And of course, they're more sustainable and durable. Durability is just the same as bear fur. So, yeah.
So what can people do? People listening to this who don't live in the UK, but they are listening in the US and they're just, they've had it. They saw the funeral. They saw the guards with the caps, and now they I had to tell them. I said, look, those are bears on their heads.
Yeah.
What can they do to kind of change this?
They can visit PETA US's website and they can take action. We're asking obviously the Prime Minister to instruct the MOD to go for free, and then there's also the diplomat who's like I forget what you call it, but like the person who is representing the UK in America.
Oh, yeah.
So you can write to her and ask her to speak to the government too.
That wouldn't be an ambassador. It'd be someone higher.
Yeah, like an ambassador. I think it is the ambassador. Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, so you can go to PETA's website and you can take action that way as well.
Okay, so we got our marching orders here. We're against. We're against foie gras, and we're against real bear caps.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and as well, people can go to you can go to the UK site and you can call for the government to ban the import of foie gras. And PETA US is working on this issue too. So yeah, there's tons of stuff on our website.
So this kind of campaign, this has been going on for years with, both the bear hats and the foie gras.
Yeah. Yeah. Both of these campaigns are long running PETA campaigns. Yeah.
But does anything from like what we've talked about, does it give it a sense that maybe there could be some hope? I mean, maybe with the foie gras, with the King Charles banning.
Yeah.
But is there anything here, maybe with the lawsuit on the bear hats, maybe?
If nothing else, the lawsuit will, like I say, raise awareness. It will really show people that there is no more excuses that the MOD can roll out for not doing this. And also that they've behaved in such a shady way. They've told us for years, for decades, that they're willing to make this switch as soon as a faux fur is available. And we've spent thousands of, pounds and hours and, years working on producing this faux fur. And now that it's here, they're reluctant to adopt it. They won't take action. So yeah, it will definitely show people that, the government has no excuses and they must act now. And I think, it will put pressure on the MOD, definitely. The Conservatives, they're not very popular right now. So it would be an easy win for our Prime Minister to say, like, let's do this and please a lot of people. There's hope.
The new Prime Minister, though, the Conservative, he looks like a foie gras guy to me.
I don't think he's a foie gras guy. I mean, like, there could be worse. His predecessor was certainly a foie gras woman, but I don't think that he is. So yeah, there could be worse people in charge for sure.
He's just a mere millionaire, not an overly established, long-running millionaire.
He's not aristocracy, no.
Okay, so all right, so maybe he would do it. Maybe he might do it.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, The campaign is all like, there's nothing, you can look at all the facts and you can see that it all makes sense and there's no reason not to do it. But all we need is like the next scandal, like we just need someone to be proven to be like shady. Like Ben Wallace just needs to do something wrong, and then we can get rid of him, and then we can get a new defense secretary who'll come along and think sense and just make this switch. But there's going to be an election soon in the UK in 2024, and then we hope that there might be a new government, a new party, and fresh eyes on this. And then, hopefully that will mean, if it doesn't happen before then, it should happen then.
Okay, well, Kate Werner, I must admit, I cannot look at a bearskin cap on a King's Guardsman.
Right?
After this, you can't. How can you? You look at him, you say, it's all vanity, right? It's all
totally, and it's stuck in the past as well. Like, come on, let's evolve. Like, we no longer think it's okay to kill bears and wear them on our heads. Like, let's make a 21st century version of that and use faux fur.
I mean, if they say they need it because it makes for a better battering ram or something, I'd say, oh yeah, maybe. It just has to be water resistant. And you can get that from the faux stuff.
And the fact that this isn't like, these bears are being killed for fun. Like, there's no reason to kill them. It's not a cull. It's not like a licensed cull. It's just killing them for fun. So who can defend that?
Well, Kate Werner, I appreciate you keeping us informed about the bear caps and the foie gras.
Thank you for having me, Emil. It's been great.
Kate Werner, PETA UK campaigner on the fight to end the use of real bearskin on those Palace Guards caps, and the latest on the fight against foie gras. For more, go to PETA.org. And that's our show for today. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to send a link of this show to your friends. Tell them you like the PETA Podcast. Contact us at PETA.org. You can find me on Twitter at Emil Amok, that's EMILAMOK, or see my vlog at AMOK.com, or see my work at ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. That's at ALDEF, AALDEF.org/blog. Once again, thank you for listening. Check out all our episodes on your favorite podcast app or on Apple Podcasts, where you can subscribe to as well as rate and review the show. It helps get the word out about the issues you care about. Our music is provided by Carbonworks. Check them out on YouTube. And join us again next time for more insight into animal rights and the fight for a cruelty-free world on the PETA Podcast. I'm Emil Guillermo.